Hello, everyone. Welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 392. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear me. Happy birthday to me. And anyone else who happens to share a February 1st birthday. I am now 45 years old. As of, I think, like 1 something this afternoon. I think I was born in the early afternoon. I really don't remember. Man, those first years, man, I must have been high as a kite because I don't remember much. My parents may not remember much about the 60s. I don't remember much from like the first 2 years. I don't know what I was smoking as a newborn, but man, it's not even a blur. It's like blackout. No memory whatsoever. Hey, Chaos. So, carrot cake is the best cake. So on Thursday, I was shopping and I decided I'm gonna pick myself up a slice of carrot cake for my birthday. And I went over to the cake section of the grocery store. Luckily, Vaughn's does not yet lock up all of the bakery items behind a glass door. And I have to, oh, hey, I want that confection. And I got to push a button and then wait for a store associate to wander over and unlock the case so I can get my cookies or donuts or bread or whatever. I am vexed by that. But and I've brought it up several times, and I've been told by several people that they will pass along my displeasure to the appropriate parties. So I'm sure something will be done about that. Toot sweet. So I wander over to the bakery, and there was but one slice of carrot cake. And it was the saddest carrot cake I have ever seen. Nay, the saddest cake I have ever seen. It was deflated somehow, slightly misshapen. You could tell it was supposed to be a square, but couldn't quite make it. It was kind of leaning over to one side. It was clear that this was also a corner piece, and it may have been baked just a bit too long. I should have taken a picture. I almost bought it just to throw it away and put it out of its misery. Save it from the embarrassment, the laughs, the stares. Carrie's mom told it, they're all going to laugh at you, and they did. Still wasn't a very nice thing to say, but it was prescient. But I didn't buy that slice of carrot cake. I left it there to bask in the ridicule of passing by shoppers. I should have taken a picture, honestly. So I guess no carrot cake for my birthday. Maybe there will be a more aesthetically pleasing, slice the next time I'm there, and I'll get that one and have a late birthday cake. Hey, Exile. So my sister, I opened the present on my sister and I were recording a March episode of Movie Mandates, and so I opened my birthday present from her on that, and she bought me. Let me go grab it real quick. She bought me Mario and Luigi Dream Team, one of the Mario and Luigi RPG titles. This has been sitting on my to buy list since 2013, so nice to finally drag that off of there. I think I've only played one or two of these. I know I've played Bowser's Inside Story, um, which I thought was great, and I think I've played one of the earlier one. I don't remember if I played Superstar Saga or Partners in Time. I'm trying to think. I think it's the one with Fawful in it, unless Fawful's in both, in which case I have no idea which one it was. So, eh. Yeah, I've not played Brothership either, although that's on the list too. Um, Chaos says you can have a very merry unbirthday. That's true. That's true. What if I go back to Vaughn's and it's the same sad slice of carrot cake? I may just have to buy it and just bury it. I don't have a yard, but the community dirt patch, or maybe light it on fire or something. Oh, I know what I could do. I may not have cake, but I have candle. There we go. Birthday accomplished. And this way I'm not spitting all over a slice of cake. It honestly did not occur to me until well into adulthood, but going all over your cake and then eating it is really gross. Particularly, I mean, if it's just your cake and you're eating the thing yourself, I mean, I guess fine. But yeah, when I was 7 and I was at a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese's or Pistol Pete's Pizza or something like that, and the birthday kid went all over the cake to blow out the candles, it never crossed my mind, I don't want to eat that now. My tiny baby brain said, my stomach is full of at least 12 slices of pizza, but I could go for a slice of cake too. um, mostly what we're going to talk about tonight is some video games I've played this week that I would like to regale you with my retelling of, or my incredibly insightful opinions thereof. But first, I want to tell you about a funny thing that happened at work this week. Other than multiple emails from the president of UC and going like, yeah, we don't know what's going on regarding like federal funding to financial aid grants and all kinds of stuff. We just don't know. And then there was an update to the email, and they go, we still just don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't seem to be legal or have the authority to do that. It's probably going to be rescinded, or at least in part. And then a third email came out. It's like, yeah, we still really don't know what's going on. This sucks. We're still trying to figure things out, so try not to panic. It's maybe probably going to be okay for some of you. So that's fun. And I know that's not just me, because I know people other than me who've had even worse experiences. Like, I know someone who 20 people just got laid off, and 10 open positions just froze the hiring. And this person told me I wasn't laid off, but I have a feeling that as soon as the 3 large projects that I'm doing and have already been paid for are done in March, Yeah. So, some pretty frightening stuff. I hope you are all okay. Um, Avowed, Yakuza Like a Pirate, and Monster Hunter Wilds all this month. Well, yeah, Avowed's not of interest to me, but the other two definitely are. Sadly, they're at the end of this month, but I did move I was originally going to take a week for my birthday, um, but I had to push that. Well, I didn't have to, but I chose to push that back a month because um, we're doing manual regression for our February release right now, and then we're releasing a new framework, so we have to do the manual regression for that like right after, and then right after that we're going to have to be doing the manual regression for the March release. And while the automation team is uh, automating as many of the manual tests as fast as they can, we've still got about 40 of them. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna ditch the team for an entire week. Um, for an entire week. So I moved my vacation back, and hey, that works better because if I get Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii or Monster Hunter Wilds, I'll have a week to play them. So, um, I was one of my coworkers was testing. What was she testing? One of the departments had found that a member, a retiree, who had insurance and insurance dependents, one of their dependents was on disability, but the eligibility date for their disability was not showing up on their insurance plan maintenance page. It says insurance or disability eligibility date colon and just a blank space. It just wasn't importing the date. So when we run the monthly insurance file, it was populating 0, and our vendors don't like that. So bug was written up. Developer fixed it. It was released to the test environment. She started testing it using that member. Um, and she calls me over Zoom and she says, "Hey, I'm getting an error. Can you help me figure out what's going on?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I get on Zoom with her, and first of all, she has to explain what the problem is because I wasn't working that bug, so I hadn't heard that that was an issue. But she brings me up to speed on the problem, and I say, "Okay, what error are you getting?" And she says, "It says there's a benefit adjustment pending." I said, "There's your problem. There's a benefit adjustment pending." And she says, "Yeah, I know, but I searched for a pending benefit adjustment for this member, and there isn't one. And I searched in the business process instance for a benefit adjustment process that's actually running, and there aren't any in progress." So I checked, and I looked in the instance, and there was no business process for a benefit adjustment that was in progress. So I ran a search for a benefit adjustment with no specific status because she had looked specifically for a pending benefit adjustment. You assume it was an incomplete data set. Oh, the original problem as to why the date was not copying over to the maintenance form. I honestly don't know. Uh, I wasn't involved with the design or any part of that specific PIR bug defect, so I don't know what the problem was. Um, but when she called my attention to it, it was populating the uh, that field correctly, so it looks like it's been fixed. But what she wanted to do was make a change to the insurance plan, submit it, and then run the monthly batch to make sure that the interface file that we send to our vendors actually had the date in it correctly. But she was getting that benefit adjustment problem. And so I ran a search for any benefit adjustment and found one that was in submitted status. And I was like, well, that's weird. Why isn't there because once it's submitted, you need to review it, and then you can either reject it, I don't remember if it cancels it or what it does, or you can approve it, which puts it in approved status, and then it won't flag as an error. So I'm like, okay, well, it's submitted, but it wasn't rejected or approved. So why the hell is there no business process? So I searched the business processes, and there wasn't one in progress, but there was one that was terminated. So at some point, someone had done the benefit adjustment process, and then they got the benefit adjustment up to review, and instead of either rejecting it or submitting it, they just terminated the entire process, which left the adjustment just kind of floating out in the ether with nothing to do. There's no way to cancel it. So I had to write a quick SQL query to just update its status to cancel so we could, get past that error. It's like, okay, someone did something they weren't really supposed to do. This is a testing environment, so it doesn't really matter. Instead of actually canceling the thing, they just terminated the entire process, which left this floating out in the middle of nowhere. I fixed it. It's fine. Try it again. She goes, oh, I'm getting a new error now. I'm like, okay, what? And she goes, it says this plan is invalid. I said, what plan? And she points to the plan. I'm like, well, that's a valid plan. I don't know. What is the subscriber on? And so this vendor has like 6 different plans, and I happen to be pretty intimately familiar with this specific vendor. So I happen to know off the top of my head that this plan and this plan do not match. You can't use them together. There are different plans. You can have split plans, but you can't split it with those specific 2. You either know that or you don't. It's fine. I said, oh, okay, you can't have that plan. So cancel this plan, start a different plan. Any of these 3 will work. So she does, and she tries to submit it again, and it throws another error. And she goes, oh, God, what is wrong with this person? And I look at the error, and I went, oh, huh. Hold on a second. And I pull up the person maintenance page and go, oh, I found the problem. They're dead. You can't insure dead people. This person's dead. I'm sorry, that's not funny. That's a real person. But yeah, that was ultimately the issue. Sadly, the validation check for is there a date of death for this person comes after a bunch of other validation checks, so we didn't see that until we'd already gone through a bunch of different things. The error was there was a death notification for this person, which if it's erroneous, you can just cancel it, but nope, this went through. This person actually died. So what happened was this member, who was 90 years old and had a child on disability. Child, I think, was 56. Their for some reason their child, their dependents, disability eligibility date did not show up on their plan form. So, and this would have been probably in like September or October when this was found. So a report was logged, it was analyzed, it was ranked. The developer got it in probably December and fixed it and deployed it to our test system towards the end of January. And we started testing it, and this person died late in December. So, yeah, real bad timing. So she, yeah. But, hey, that certainly explains the error. The vendor I'm talking about does actually have Medicare plans. This was... I actually don't know if I mean, the person was 90. They probably were on the Medicare plan. And the child who was on disability probably would have been 2. Even though they were 56. But she was just changing the plan to something else to trigger a change so that it would show up on the monthly file, or well, whichever file she was testing. Um, so she needed to change it to something. Um, so that was the weekly. Yeah, she's changing it to something so it would show up on the weekly. And it's, oh, benefit adjustment. All right, here, I fixed it. Go. And, oh, plan doesn't work. I change it to this plan. Oh, they're dead. Yeah. So, you can't insure the dead. But that also explains the benefit adjustment, because insurance is paid the month that your ass is covered by insurance. You pay for that the prior month. So if you die, you're going to end up paying for stuff that you're not using because you're dead. And you do get that money back, which doesn't do you much good because you're dead. So we do try to return that to, whoever your beneficiaries are. In this case, it probably would have been the child. But there are cases when someone passes away and we need to return a payment to them, and there's just no one to send the check to. It's just a single person. They have no dependents. They have no. That does happen sometimes, and it gets written off. So. Oh, you're on Medicare for disability? Yeah, I've been working at UC for 2.5 years now, so I am getting into I'm learning about this now because I have to. We It is horrifically complicated. Um, the worst part, there's a lot of rules regarding it. Rules regarding people's ages and eligibility and whether they're working or not, or retired or not, or a subscriber or a dependent, or which plans they have. Um, but that's all rules that you can look up. The hardest thing for me anyway is the damn interface files, the things we send to the vendors. Um, because it's just all codes. It's this really long list of codes. It's like, okay, here's the INS segment star, and then it's like a Y if it's a subscriber, or an end if it's N if it's a dependent, and then it's got a more delimiters, and then it just has a bunch of different codes standing for a bunch of different things, and there's I think like 25 segments, and the segments can have um like up to 15 different values per segment. It's like, God, it's so hard to read. I've been working on those files since last spring, so about 9-10 months now. So I'm getting a lot better at actually being able to look at these interface files and kind of decipher them in my head, but oh, good God. And we have weekly, monthly, and annual versions of these interface files, and the selection criteria governing what information shows up on which file and when is slightly different between all of them. It's it's complicated. Yeah, and it's really important to get it right too, because you can get sued for this stuff. If for those of you who don't know, I manage. I work on a team that does the quality assurance for the university's benefits and payroll system. So that covers all of payroll for all of our employees, for all the locations, all the campuses, all the medical centers, all the labs, but also the benefit payments, all the retirement stuff, all of the disability stuff, all of the retirement plan and savings plan stuff. Although some of it is actually an outside vendor, but yeah, that stuff has to be correct. It has to work right. You can get sued if you screw that up. So uh, it's a lot of responsibility. You have to make sure you have that stuff. And it's also you're working with sensitive data. You're working with people's names and addresses and social security numbers and stuff. So you have to be exceptionally careful when you are testing all this stuff. Like if you have a question on stuff, you can't just send a file to someone. You can't just get on Zoom and expose all that personal identifying information, all the PII, right? You can't just email that stuff to others unless it's scrambled first. You have to use secure servers and such. It you have to be very, very careful with all of this stuff, and um it's new for me. I've never dealt with information that it was. I've never dealt with payroll stuff and insurance and money, and I've never dealt with personally identifying information. My previous employment, I was working with inventory data, um, which is a lot of times private, but also not that big a deal. No one really cares how many packages of Oreos that Vaughn's has on their shelf. That's no one's business, but it's also not that big of a deal. But, everyone's, birthday, social security number, banking information, that's really sensitive information that you have to be extraordinarily careful with. So, yeah, it's a cool job and I like it. I'm exceptionally fortunate to have it, but it can be pretty stressful. It's something that it's very complicated and sensitive, and you have to really pay attention and stay on your toes. Um, so, welcome to health insurance, all codes. Yeah. Yeah, we have how many vendors? How many? Just only counting medical insurance vendors, we currently have active five, six, six. Um, then we have two dental and one legal. I think that's right. Six, seven, eight, nine, nine. Am I missing something? It doesn't matter. Yeah, we've got 10 or so insurance vendors that we work with that covers medical, dental, and legal. So, and they're all different, and they all cover different areas. Now we're the University of California, so most of this is California. But as an example, some people, if you work for UC and you retire or you separate and get a job in another state, you can still have insurance. It's just out. It just limits what plans you can do and all kinds of weird stuff. So, yeah, funds. Isn't this fascinating? It's really fun. And you cannot insure dead people. Dead people cannot be insured. It's in the rules. We have a business rule that specifically says if dead, do not insure. So, yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I was in my previous job. There was apparently a class action lawsuit against the company for some type of payment shenanigans, and the company settled, and everyone who was an employee between April 2022 and I don't know, through the end of 2024 or something like that, was entitled to uh, money. I just barely qualified for that because I left in July of 2022. So I just barely made the cut. I had no idea about this class action lawsuit. Um, but I got a letter and a check in the mail 2 weeks ago for I think $25.96, something like that. So, yay. Okay. So yeah, very important when it comes to money and personally identifying information. You have to be extraordinarily careful. So, all right, let's talk about video games. Those are fun. Let's. Hey, what'd you talk about on your podcast? Oh, insurance. Yeah, riveting podcast. No wonder there's only 4 people watching. All right, so in the last week or so, I played 2 investigative mystery games. I was just kind of browsing around for stuff, and I came across a demo on the PlayStation store for a game called Tokyo Psychodemic. Um, this is a forensic uh, investigative mystery game. So the basic gameplay premise is you are presented with an odd case where someone died, and you need to use forensic tools in order to figure out what the heck happened. So, for example, in case 1, don't spend it all in one place. I kind of already did. Basically, I just deposited it, and I just today I went to the bank and withdrew $40 in quarters so I could do my laundry. So I guess that settlement money subsidized the next 2 months of laundry. So yay. um, so Tokyo Psychodemic. So the first case is a dude who works in some pharmaceutical company is having himself a smoke break in the smoking area of the building's underground parking lot when he suddenly bursts into flames and dies from that. But it's not like, oh, he, you know, just dropped his cigarette and lit himself on fire. No, he burnt himself into nothing. There was nothing but his feet left. Like it was like his feet up to and his shins up to his knees. And your shins go up to your knees. So like everything just burnt away. There was just boots and a bit of bone in the boot. That was it. It's like, okay, what the hell happened here? Was it a murder? Was it an accident? Was there someone with was it the Stephen King, was Drew Barrymore Firestarter mad at this guy? What happened? So what you do is you have to use the autopsy report, crime scene photos, security footage to figure out what the hell happened. And you have some tools that you can use, such as you have friends on the dark web. You've got a chemist friend who will tell you all about, chemicals and stuff. You've got an occult specialist who will tell you about ostensible real cases of spontaneous combustion. And you've got another tech guy who can hack any security feed or company database. So what you do is you're like, okay, we can see that we see the footage of this guy walking into the parking lot, and he's got a bag with him, like he just went to a mini mart or something. What's in the bag? Oh, well, he walks off camera, so we can't really see it. So we get the footage from the front of the building, and we say, okay, he left at 8 o'clock. And then we can fast forward and see him come back at 8:15. It's like, okay, so he probably walked somewhere that's 5 or 6 minutes away, bought something, and came back. All right. So he left the building and headed east. So you get on the dark web and you talk to the guy. It's like, are there any security cameras on the street in that area? He's like, yes, there's one at the upcoming intersection. So you scrub through the security feed, and you can also get a photo of the guy, and you can vectorize the photo and then compare the guy on the security tape to the photo to make sure it's the same person, because he's walking in a a crowd of people. All the security footage, for example, is live action footage, by the way. So it's like, there he is. Okay, he's going north. Quick, dude on the internet, get all the security cameras for this time frame north of this intersection. Oh, okay, he went west down this street. Oh, okay, he went south down this street. All right, well, there's a security camera here and here. It's like, okay, well, he didn't walk past this one, so he must have gone down this street. Oh, shoot, there are no security cameras on that street, so we're going to have to pull the security cameras from all of the stores on that street, which is 2 convenience stores, a pharmacy, and like an eatery or something. And you could just watch all of them until you find out which store he went into, but if you're following the clues, it's like he probably went to the pharmacy to get some type of chemical that led to him bursting into flames that burnt hot enough to just vaporize all but his tootsies. And sure enough, you find him on the pharmacy, and then you zoom in and you take a picture of the bottle he's holding, and then you look at the crime scene photos, and it's like, wait, is that the same bottle? And you run a comparison, and it's an 83% match, and aha, we know what chemical he bought and where it came from, da 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 da. It's stuff like that. There's also, in later cases, audio comparison, where you have to isolate certain channels. Like you get the audio from like a guy who's delivering a ransom message, and you can hear this little jingle in the background if you isolate the right channel. It's like, what is that jingle? So you search it on the internet, and it's like, oh, it's this song, and your dark web friends give you the history of that song, and you start reading through it, and it's like, oh, this was used as the jingle for a convenience store. For a bus line. And it's like, oh, well, is there a bus? Maybe he's near a bus station. You keep reading, it's like, oh, that was discontinued 3 years ago. And then you're like, oh, okay, it's the jingle in a convenience store. And say, well, there's 6 convenience stores in this area, and here's the approximate distance they'd have to be away from something in order to hear it. So they could be in any of these 6 buildings. Okay, well, I also hear a fire truck, and there was a fire in these 2 areas, so that kind of narrows down right? Really cool stuff. So you get into other cases like 3 people get into an elevator. They're seen on a security camera, and then they don't get off of it again. The elevator opens up they get on the 13th floor or 16th floor, whatever, 12th floor is what it was. Go down to the first floor, doors open up, they're not in there. There's no hatch in the elevator. Where the hell did they go? There's let's see. There's another great one where body parts just drop out of the sky onto the street. People are just walking around playing on their phones, and like a foot just falls out of the sky. They're, what the hell? Just somehow some guy got cut into 14 parts, and his body parts just rained all over the street. And you're trying to figure out, how the hell did that even happen? Did someone drop him off a nearby building? Did a tornado throw body parts from somewhere? Can birds lift up big chunks of meat? You know? What? Aliens? What the hell happened here? So there's a lot of really fun scenarios to work to use forensics to figure out what really happened. The game does not entirely work, though. Mechanically, I mean, functionally it works just fine, although I did find one way to soft lock the game. That's not great. But there's a couple places I think the game doesn't succeed. Overall, I enjoyed myself. I'm glad I bought it. A little on the pricey side. This game originally came out at like $60, which is just asking way too much for it, and they cut the price down to 30, which I still feels a bit much. I mean, the game is, I think I completed it in about 11 hours. And I would guess at least 4 of those hours are just cutscenes. It's very talky. If you ever played Metal Gear Solid, super short game, right? It's like 6 hours, but 3 of those hours are cutscenes and codex conversations. It is a very, very short game. It's not a bad game, just really, really short, and most of it's and half of it's cutscenes. This is not quite half of it, but the opening of the game is like 20 minutes long, and I was like, wait, did I? Because I started with the demo, and I was not sure if this was a visual novel or not. I'm like, is there any game here, or is this just a visual novel? It's okay if it's a visual novel, but I would like to know going in what I'm getting, right? No, it just has a really long opening cutscene. The problem I have narratively is not the premise or the story, both of which are solid and even have some really, really bright points. Um, the problem I have is the storytelling is uninteresting and the characters are one-dimensional and flat, which makes the cutscenes just quite a chore to sit through. Again, it's not that the premise is bad. The premise is fine. The story is, for the most part, pretty good, but it's just not told in a way that's entertaining enough to justify such long, chatty cutscenes. You know, because you sit there going, "Oh my God, let me just investigate." The other, and I feel larger problem, is the game does not thread the needle of giving you so much help that it's hand-holding, but giving you enough freedom to let you play the game. It's it's the kind of game that if it didn't hold your hand a bit, most gamers I think would be completely lost and not know what to do or what to look at or how to go about investigating. But I feel that they erred too much on the side of caution, and it railroads you down a very specific path, partially because I think they don't want you to get lost, and also partially because they need you to find the information in a very specific order. Because if they let you examine the information, because unlike Phoenix Wright, Phoenix Wright is an investigative mystery game where when you do your investigation, all of the crap that ends up in your evidence bag, you get one at a time. You go to the crime scene, you're like, aha, a stapler. Putting that in the evidence bag, and you look around, and it's like, aha, a bloody rock. That's going in the evidence bag. Right? You get things one at a time. In this game, you're basically sent an evidence packet with you're sent an entire case file with the autopsy, the crime scene photos, the case report, the pictures of the suspects, the witness interviews, all that, security camera footage. One time you get the cassette tape of the perpetrator who left a ransom note, all that. You get all of the stuff. And the problem with that approach is if you can look at it in any order, you might see the twist coming way too early. So what they do is they force you to look at the evidence in a certain order, which a lot of times makes the game feel like you're on rails. Like you don't have the freedom to investigate. It's like, okay, now look at this witness statement. Okay, now I know you want to see the other stuff on the board, but now go over to the computer and ask the guy on the net what that thing was, and then look at this video, and it railroads you into a certain investigative path, which is unfortunately limiting. I understand why they do that, but I think there are better ways they could have gone about making sure you experience a story in the right order, in a carefully curated way, but not make it feel like they were driving you in a straight line. Mo Horta, hello. just joined, what game am I talking about? I'm talking about Tokyo Psychodemic, a forensic investigative mystery game that I found on the PlayStation Store. Downloaded the demo, gave it a play, thought it was doing a lot of neat things, bought the game, and overall, I feel $30 is asking a bit much for what the game is, but overall, it does enough stuff really, really well that it's the kind of game that it feels like whoever the developer is, I haven't looked it up, but whoever the developer, it feels like a first effort from them, like they were trying something new. And it's the kind of game that makes me say, I hope it is enough of a success so that you can try again. I want you to go for part 2, because you've got a lot of genuinely great things in here. You've got a wonderful foundation. You've got a lot of really cool ideas. Not everything works. I think you just need stronger writing. Conceptually, the premise and the story are fine. I think you just need stronger writing so that the delivery is more interesting, because you clearly don't have the resources or budget to make it visually interesting. It's presented in a very visual novel kind of way, where a character's portrait is on the screen and text, 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 then other character portrait, text, 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 right? That's fine, but it's not particularly visually engaging, so you need particularly strong writing in the dialogue and the characters and the story to make a, I don't want to use the word dull, a not very kinetic performance interesting to watch, to experience, right? So you don't get bored during the cutscenes. So better writing. I think they need to find better ways to guide the player through the mystery so that they hit the beats in the order they want them to hit them, without grabbing them by the hand and dragging them through, or pushing them through, however you feel. Also, there were a couple puzzles. There were a couple puzzles I don't think quite work. Chicago. You're Tokyo Psychodemic. Tokyo Psychodemic. It's a forensic investigative mystery game where you get a case file and then you use audio and video equipment and all kinds of fun stuff to try and figure out why body parts just suddenly dropped from the sky in the middle of a Shinjuku intersection. Was it birds? Was it high winds? Was it aliens? There's one funny part where a airliner explodes. Well, that's not funny, but there's one great part of the game where an airliner explodes, and you find out that a submarine appears to have shot it down. It's like, where did the submarine go? So you end up hacking the fish finders of local fishing boats to follow this submarine around and figure out where it went. It's a fun idea. But there's a couple there are a couple bits in the game that didn't work. For example, there's the one bit I was talking about earlier where you're listening to an audio from a guy who's like making ransom demands, and you're isolating different channels of the audio so that you can pick out bits in the background, like, oh, that's the jingle that's used in a convenience store, oh, that's a fire truck, so you can try and figure out where this person must be, right? And so one of the questions is, okay, we can hear the jingle from the mini mart. Which direction was it coming from? How the hell am I supposed to determine that? So far as I'm aware, your audio examining equipment does not have any indication of directionality at all. There's no left-right channel or anything. So how am I supposed to know what direction it's coming from, left or right? I don't know. I still don't know. And the game is pretty. I saw like I did a search and I saw like one Let's Play for the game. There's no game facts page for it. Um, so I have no idea what the solution to this is. The only thing I can think of is they expect you to have stereo speakers and to stick your head between the speakers and listen to which side it's coming out of. I don't have stereo speakers. I have a television. It has speakers on either side, but it sounded center channel to me. I don't know. So I have no idea how the hell you were supposed to figure that one out. Um, there's another one where you find a encoded message. It's like AAC, CBA, something like that. And you're like, what the hell is this? And then you figure out, oh wait, he used this thing. These are musical notes. So you plot the notes on a scale, and you play those notes back. And if you're Japanese, you probably recognize the melody as a fairly well-known children's song. I'm not Japanese. I didn't grow up in Japan. I've never lived there, so I did not recognize the melody at all. So I was like, okay, and what do you want? The point is like, you plug in the notes, you listen to the melody, you identify the song, and the title of the song is the password that you type into the dude's computer to get at his files or something. That's great, and probably works for most Japanese gamers. I'm sure most Japanese gamers recognize that song. But I'm also certain that there's probably a few who like, I've never heard that before. Or even some are like, oh yeah, I've heard that. I don't know what it's called. Like in America, if you heard da 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 da, you'd be like, some of us would be, I don't know what that is. Many of us would be like, oh yeah, all around the mulberry bush, the monkey chased the weasel, right? But it's like, what's the name of that song? Is it called All Around the Mulberry Bush? Is it called Pop Goes the Weasel? I actually don't know. I could look it up, but I have no idea. In the previous case, I was thinking, wait a minute, was the jingle that was used in that mini mart, was that song? Is it using something you learned in an earlier case? And I went back and no, it's not. That would have been really cool. It's just not. And so far as I saw, there was nothing that told you what the name of the game expected you, the player, whether you're Japanese or not, you have to have recognized this children's song and know what it's called, or you're not progressing in this game. There's literally no way to get past this hurdle unless you've heard this jingle, this melody, and you know what it's called. That's not a great idea for a puzzle. I would caution against that. Or at least have some other path, and they might, and I just might have missed it, but have some other path to determine it. You shouldn't have to consult external sources to... Everything you need to figure it out should be in the game. But those are really the only two instances of that. And so it does a fun thing where the title of the game is Tokyo Psychodemic. So there's this psychics cult that cropped up a couple of years ago, but then disbanded. And the rumor was that this person had kidnapped a bunch of people and was basically doing the D therefore G cult lodge bullshit, doing surgeries and drug treatments to try and either unlock latent psychic potential or install psychic abilities in their subjects to use for their own nefarious gains. So as you're playing through the game, it's like, so did this person burst into flames due to psychic kinetic powers, or what? Did the body parts fall from the sky? Is that the psychics, or is there a rational explanation? As you play through the game, there's rational explanations for everything. Why the guy lights on fire, why body parts fell from the sky, uh, why these people disappeared out of a damned elevator. Um, but when you get to the end of the game, you find out that psychics are real. So you end up having to go back through all of your cases, reinvestigating them and going, oh shoot. That's the reason this guy went to the store to get the chemical that he used that did the thing. He was being controlled by another psychic. Because you find out that there's one of the psychics has the ability to mind control. All he has to do, and he's like an 82-year-old man in the form of like a 14-year-old child, and all he has to do is physically touch you, and that will do something to your brain chemistry and follow his suggestions for the next couple of hours. And you find out that by researching stuff, it creates increases melanin levels in the irises. So your tech guy creates a plugin for your video analyzation software that will make their eyes glow if it detects high melanin levels. So you look at the old security footage of the guy walking through town, you see his eyes glowing. It's like, oh, shoot. So you go back to the front, it's like, well, his eyes weren't glowing there. And you start going through the tapes, and you find the damn kid who he bumped into on the street, and he was there the entire time. But you didn't have the context to know that this was a psychic. It was just some kid he walked into on the street. But that was someone who shook his hand and mind stole him. It's really cool. It's such a fun idea. And it doesn't... It manages to not make it feel like you're dragging through old territory, like it's reusing assets, like it's, oh, you have to investigate the case again. No, it feels new enough. You don't feel like you're like when games do, I don't know, like a boss rush mode or something. Like it's like you ran out of ideas. It's like, here, replay all the stuff you already did just to kind of pad out the runtime a little bit. And story-wise, there's also some interesting ideas, like now that the cult has been disbanded, these psychics are wandering around, and they're being violent and causing problems, not because they're evil, necessarily, but because they're going through withdrawal from the drugs that they didn't want to take in the first place. And that's a really interesting approach. I don't think they follow through on it in a great way, but the idea is there. So, I don't recommend the game, but there's so much I like about it that I really hope they give it another try, because I think they've got something really cool here. So kudos on first effort, 10th effort, whichever effort it was. I think you've got the foundation to build something super, super cool. So keep at it, whoever made that game. It's already 8 o'clock. Well, I'll talk about the next one. I also, since I was on kind of a investigative mystery kick, went ahead and tried the demo for a game that came out a couple of years ago that I had heard about, just never got around to playing, The Case of the Golden Idol, which is in part mechanically similar to Return of the Obra Dinn, in which you investigate a scene and you essentially have a Mad Lib that you need to fill out. So you have a, here's what happened, but all of the nouns and verbs are removed, and you have to place the right nouns and the right verbs in the right place to tell the whole story to show that you figured out what's going on, right? Curse of the Golden Idol works much the same way. You get a vignette of, there's a dead guy on the floor, there's a knife on the table, there's two people upstairs, and one of them has a hairdryer. So you've got, so you have to investigate the house and read through documents and search through these people's pockets to try and figure out who everyone is and what happened. Part of the fun is trying to figure out what people's names are, which is pretty much what Oberdin is. It's like, who is everybody? How did they die? This is somewhat similar. It's like, who's the dead guy? Who killed them, and how and why? And it's quite fun. What's interesting? I went ahead and bought the game. Another game I feel is little on the pricey side. It's not bad. It's about $20, but it's also only about 6 hours. So it's a little on the short side, but so little on the pricey side, but it's charming and it's fun, and I rather liked it. What's interesting is they made a what they call a Redux version, and you can start the game into Classic or Redux. And Redux is just seems to be they just kind of changed the presentation. It looks actually kind of like this is how we refactored everything to work on mobile. I tried playing the Redux version and I was like, I don't like this at all. Um, with the classic version, you have everything, you have all your nouns and verbs and stuff on the same screen. Uh, well, all your proper nouns and improper nouns, those naughty, naughty improper nouns, and verbs and stuff, and location names and such. You have them all in the same place. In the Redux version, they like separate them out into different tabs, so you're constantly having to flip between two. It's like, no, I just like everything where I can get it. So I like the classic version better. Um, what I like about the game is, and I didn't know this going in, is all of the 10 cases in the game are part of an overarching story. That's not too surprising, but it's telling the same. You'll see the same characters dipping in and out of the story and moving on in life. And what I kind of wish I'd known going in is pay attention to who everyone is and how they relate to everyone else, because that becomes very important later by, like, case 4 or 5 or so. um Luckily you can go back and look at stuff really easily. But yeah, once you get into like case 4 or 5, you're like, oh, these are all the same people, and this is taking place over the course of like a decade or two. And because you start with two people, and one guy is murdering another guy for a golden idol, and then you find, and then the next one is years later, he dies, and then the next one is the reading of his will, and then the next one, it goes on and on there. It's like, oh wait, and then the next one, you're at a bar somewhere where the guy who actually inherited the idol was murdered by someone who might know a name that you might relate back to something if you were paying attention. And as you go through the game, if you're paying attention, you have to start keeping all that track of who all these people are and how they relate to each other. Um, and it tells an overarching story, which gets kind of silly, but it works within the context of its own universe. So it's a lot of fun. I quite liked Case of the Golden Idol. Yeah, it's a little pricey for how short it is, but overall, I think it's a solid game, fun story, fun characters. One thing I think it has over Tokyo Psychodemic is the entirety of the story comes through in the investigating case vignettes. There's very little need for cutscenes or anything, although there are like 3 or 4 little interstitial cutscenes that just kind of bridge the gap between case X and case Y, but they last like 10 seconds, right? Where Tokyo Psychodemic, I said it took me 11 hours to get through the game. I think like 3 or 4 of them are just watching these people talk to each other. And none of the characters are really interesting enough, or the dialogue is really fresh enough for that to hold rapt attention. which is a shame. So, I really like what Tokyo Psychodemic was doing with the forensic mechanics of the gameplay, and I really like how the story of Curse of the Golden Idol was integrated into the various case vignettes and worked overall as a satisfying narrative arc that encapsulated all 10 cases, however many there are. So, some pretty good stuff. Both of them, again, maybe a little pricey, or maybe I'm just super cheap. Probably the latter. After all, I did not buy that sad piece of carrot cake. So, alright, that is it for tonight. Tomorrow is the Groundhog Day, I guess. It's the first Sunday of the month, so we're going to take a break from Cold Steel. And we are going to play a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima. We are going to play the DLC, which is apparently there's another island near Tsushima, and we're gonna get on a boat and go over there and stab people in the face. So wearing a fundoshi. So it's gonna be lots of fun. So I hope you'll join me for that. That's tomorrow at noon. And until then, have a good evening, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.